Have you ever marveled at people that could literally make any topic sound like the most interesting thing in the world?
This is like too big to ignore. I think it's the single largest opportunity since the internet originally came out.
Insane.
That's what Dharmesh Shah, the billionaire CTO from the tech company HubSpot, pulled off when he broke down a pretty nerdy topic about artificial intelligence in a way that would even captivate your mother. So let's break down Dharmesh's 4-step framework to help you explain any topic that you're passionate about in a way that would make everyone in the room hang on to every word that you say. In this week's edition of Speaker Film Study, step 1 is to lay out the upfront contract for your audience. This basically means that for X number of minutes, you're going to describe a particular topic for their benefit.
I'll give myself 2 minutes, and we're going to talk about vector embeddings and why that's going to change your world.
The key mindset shift is that regardless of the setting, whether it's on stage doing a public speaking event or at a house party explaining a story to a friend, you can't assume that your listener's attention is given. You have to earn it. And the way you earn it is by framing everything in what's in it for them, what's in it for my audience. And that's exactly what Dharmesh does here. Now, it's a lot better than just saying what it is that you're going to describe, because then you've immediately tuned out your audience.
What are vector embeddings to what are vector databases?
Step 2 is to use the word imagine, particularly when you're explaining a more complex topic. Now, imagine is so powerful for 2 reasons. The first is that it gets your audience to visualize what it is that you're saying, and when they're visualizing, they're actively listening and therefore much more engaged.
Now, I want you to imagine a line, like if you're in a geometry class. And you could put a point on that line that says, oh, that's like 3 units from the origin, right? It's like, oh, yeah, point A is 3 units from the origin, and point B, let's say, is 7 units from the origin. So one thing we know for sure is that we can calculate the distance between those 2 points.
The second reason why imagine is such a great word to use is that it helps you break down more complex topics in simpler ways. Notice how when Dharmesh teaches a concept, he's leaning on very basic common knowledge about geometry that makes it easier for your audience to understand.
If you move to 2 dimensions, now you have 2 numbers that describe every point, and we can, physically, you could probably measure with a ruler, but there are mathematical calculations based on those numbers to calculate the distance. That's intuitive, right?
That is what we call constructivism, leaning on old foundational knowledge to help you learn new concepts. The third phase is to lean on signposts to keep your audience engaged.
And before I can talk about vector embeddings, I'm going to explain to you how they work, because I had to go through this with my 12-year-old because he was curious.
Signposts are phrases throughout your speech that explain why what you're about to say is super important.
Now, here's where it starts to get a little more interesting. Imagine in an abstract world, there are 1,000 different dimensions. Now, imagine every paragraph, blog post, anything you write, you can reduce down to a point in this 1,000 dimension space, a vector, which is basically a set of, let's say, 1,000 different numbers that says, this thing, if you plotted it, that point falls right here.
Now, we need to insert these phrases because our audience's attention is naturally highest only at the beginning and the end, and tends to dip in the middle. So to keep your audience's attention throughout, you need to insert these signposts to signal how you're transitioning or what you're about to say next and why that's important.
That means you can measure the distance between vectors, and you can find out how related 2 things are, even though they use completely different words. That's vector embedding. And the reason I'm telling you this is one of the biggest opportunities in AI right now is to do what Pandora did. Is there an industry where right now we're doing really stupid keyword-based matching and allow people to find things in a different way than they've ever been able to do before?
And finally, step 4 is to make it relatable to your audience.
Right.
What's a real-life example of this?
So I'm going to take it to you, Sam. So you have Hampton now. You're going to build up these profiles of members that are part of your community. Now imagine if you took that content that they opted in and created vector embeddings of every member that you have. And then you can say, you know what? I want to find someone not that's in my industry. I want to find someone that's dealing with these kind of founder therapy level issues. That's a billion-dollar idea.
If you ever just describe your topic in a vacuum and don't explain what's really in it for them, they're not going to care and they'll just tune out towards the end. Now, the 4-step framework is not sufficient to ensuring that your audience is locked in on every word that you say. No, there's actually a missing ingredient, and it's one that the best comedians, coaches, and CTOs all have when they speak. That is passion. Watch a masterclass example of how Dave Chappelle does this right in a heartfelt speech to his best friend Jon Stewart right here.